It's the final preseason game and the final Bills post-game tune-up before the real deal begins in a week from next Sunday night. My name is Scott, and this is Bills post-game. Bills, Bucs. How did the Bills fare against the Bucs in the season finale, preseason finale that is, not the actual season finale, but the preseason finale? Let's find out. Go Bills! Let's get going. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fan's perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Hello, everybody. Welcome in to Bills Postgame. I am Scott, your Bills Mafia, Bills fan, ready to bring you all of the great action from the preseason on to the regular season, and I cannot wait to bring that to you. Hello again, Bills Mafia. Hello again, football fans. Welcome in to another Bills post-game edition of the preseason. It's our final preseason show before the real deal gets going a week from next Sunday night. More on a week from next Sunday night in just a few moments, but that is coming up momentarily. We have the CBS Sports website up as well as the NFL.com scores section up as well as we speak. I will be sharing that screen with you momentarily. Speaking of momentarily, before we jump into anything regarding that game, who are the head coaches? We're not going to worry too much about the starting quarterbacks as much as we would and we did in the Giants recap. But let's get to our coaches because I remember when I did the coaching and quarterbacks last time, I ended up going over the owners. So we're going to go owners and coaches. First for your Buffalo Bills, Bills Mafia. The owners are Kim and Terry Pagula, and the head coach of the Buffalo Bills in the farewell season to the old Highmark Stadium is Sean McDermott. As we all know, our QB1 is Josh Allen, but for this game, it was Sam Mitchell. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and a quick shout out to my good friend Maurice, a fellow Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, and also a fellow Blue Jay fan. We'll talk about the Blue Jays later. Well, actually, maybe he's not a Blue Jay fan, but that's another story for another time. Anyways, the Buccos, they are coached by Todd Bowles and owned by Brian Glazer, Edward Glazer, and Joel Glazer. The team was established in 1976 and has been playing at Raymond James Stadium, the site of this game, as the Bills would finish the preseason on the road. Going into this game, Tampa Bay had won two of their preseason matchups, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 17-14 and absolutely crushing the Tennessee Titans the Saturday before last Saturday when they beat the Steelers 17-14. They crushed the Tennessee Titans. The Buffalo Bills, meanwhile, speaking of getting crushed, they lost 34-25 to the G-Man Giants in week 1. Last week they lost 38-0 to the Chicago Bears, and that was a mess in a mess, despite Josh Allen not starting that game. My thoughts on those games are on the Giants post-game show for the Giants, but of course they're also going to have some thoughts there for the Bears. I'm also going to have some thoughts for the Bears as we get closer to week 1, and then I'll have some extended thoughts from this game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneer game. Anyways, both teams would finish the preseason. The Bills will finish the preseason 1-2. They finish it on a high note with a big dub last night. As this is being recorded on Sunday, August 24th, 2025, the game was Saturday, August 23rd, 2025. Set to launch on Monday, August 25th, 2025. Without further ado, the Buccaneers also finishing the preseason 2-1. Buffalo is preparing now for a week 1 opponent that was unbeatable in the preseason. That is Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. I forgot, what was the quarterback? Well, Sam Buechele was the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills in this game. There were two quarterbacks used in this game by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and one of them was this man, Connor Bazelak. I'm going to go with Connor B. If I pronounce the name wrong, sincerest apologies. The next man up would be this man in Kyle Trask, and he looked pretty good. Kyle Trask looked pretty good. Connor B also looking pretty good in this one. Sam Buechele looking pretty good for the ball game itself. All right. With that being said, the quarterbacks, coaches out of the way, lots to get into. We are going to jump into our game breakdown in just a little bit. But I first want to give a programming note as we go into our first commercial break before we get there. We will do 4 commercial breaks for this one as we prepare for the Baltimore Ravens at the end of the show. We start the preparation, I should say, for the Baltimore Ravens at the end of this show. In our third break of the show, once we are through our second break, we will start getting into player of the game, play of the game, and the game totals. When we come back after the first commercial break, we will get into the first half highlights, which is where we will share the screen. After the first half highlights, we will take a break from the game breakdown, get a look at the early preseason week number 3 final scores. Some were pretty interesting. We will take a look at Thursday and Friday's scores. Once we are through the second half of this game, we will take a look at the rest of Saturday's big Gator action with a couple other games that ended up in big leads, leading to big wins. And of course, once the game breakdown is done, nearing the final moments of the show, we will be doing our game totals, player of the game, play of the game, and of course, setting up Allen versus Lamar. So lots to take in. And as for the programming update, Blue Jays game recap, Blue Jays and Marlins coming your way after the conclusion of the Marlins series. Blue Jays had to win a thriller in game number 2, as that game took 12 innings before the Blue Jays picked up the second of 2 victories in the Miami Marlins series. They took 1 out of 3 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates were at a record of 54-74. They ended up winning 2 out of 3. Blue Jays have won the first 2 against Miami, winning 5-2 on Friday night, 7-6 in extra innings yesterday, and they currently trail Miami in the bottom of the 5th, 1-0, and Miami has the bases loaded as we speak. All right, back to Bills football on Bills postgame as our preseason finale post-game show and the second of 2 post-game shows in the preseason we do this season will continue after this from Broadcast Map and the folks at Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. We'll take a quick word and then it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty of this Saturday 23-19 win for the Bills over the Tampa Bay Bucs. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a moment.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Sienna T Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Keeping a close eye on the action with the Blue Jays and the Marlins, our 3-game series currently going on for the Blue Jays road trip. They'll open up a 6-game homestand with the Minnesota Twins coming into town on Monday, followed by the Brew Crew coming in to town on Friday for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday showdown. The Twins will be here from Monday to Wednesday. Off day for the Jays on Thursday. Then the Brew Crew is here for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday showdown. But this is not Blue Jays game recap. That comes your way following us, as Thomas will be here to break it all down for you. It's a threesome, all 3 games on Blue Jays game recap right here on the ice and behind the benches, and of course on Sports for Beginners. Check it out following our show here on Sports for Beginners. And as I've mentioned when we started the preseason post-game, for this season and seasons prior, when we do preseason action, only Bills post-game will be available on Sports for Beginners. I am your host, Scott. What is up, Bills Mafia? Happy Victory Monday to you. I know it's being recorded on a Sunday, but this show will be dropping on Monday, so what a big dub that was for the Buffalo Bills. Still, pre-snap penalties, a couple of things that we need to work on. Let's jump to the game, shall we? I'm going to share my screen right now. It's time for our first half highlights of the scoring, but first, let's run down our line score. And here on the website here, we don't have too much of the stats to go over, so I will go over a couple more of those stats from the team stats when we are through the scoring part of it. For the Bills, they're off to a good start, leading 7-0 at the end of 1 quarter of play. We'll get to what happened in that play in a moment. Second quarter for both teams, Buffalo with 10 points. The Buccaneers also with 10 points. They would be leading by 7 at the half at 17-10. We're going to get to that in moments. In the third quarter and fourth quarter, the Bills only managed to muster 6 points in the third quarter. They are unable to muster any points in the fourth quarter of the second half. So the second quarter of the second half, but fourth quarter of the entire game. The Buccaneers able to muster just 3 points in the third quarter, first quarter of the second half. In the second quarter and final quarter of the second half, they're able to muster 6 points. So the Bills with 1-0 in the second half, the Buccaneers with a 0 in the first half, Buffalo with 7 points in the first quarter, 10 points in the second quarter. Buccaneers managed to grab 10 points in the second quarter. They grabbed 3 points in the third quarter, 6 points in the fourth, and the Bills grabbing 6 points in the third quarter of play. No points in the fourth. Here we go. We're starting off our first half breakdown with what happened in the first and second quarter. The second half breakdown is our third and fourth quarter. We'll get to those momentarily. Bills starting this game on the right foot. Frank Gore up the middle for a 1-yard touchdown. Frank Gore Jr., that is. Extra point by Tyler Bass, who would start the game as the kicker. Hasn't started any of the previous preseason games for the Buffalo Bills. He did start in the preseason finale, as was expected. He makes the PAT, short for Pat Attempt. Buffalo up early, 7-0 on the Frank Gore Jr. touchdown on the ground. To the second quarter we go. Bills up 7-0 after 1 quarter of play. Buccaneer kicker to get the first points on the board. Chase McLaughlin hits a field goal from 35 yards, and the Bills' 7-0 early lead drops to a 4-point lead as The Bucs get on the board. It is 7-3. Next possession, Buffalo started with the ball in the second half. The Buccaneers starting with the ball in the first half. If memory serves me correctly, I will double check that to be sure, but I do know that Buffalo did score first in the first quarter, but they did not have the ball to start. If I have that correct, I will double check during the break to make sure. Anyways, Chase McLaughlin 35-yard field goal makes it 7-3. Buccaneers on the board. Bills up 7-3. Sam Buechele picking up an 11-yard touchdown pass to Tyrell Shavers. It's a touchdown. Buffalo's up 13-3. That's a 10-point game. It becomes an 11-point game with Tyler Bass. Extra point up and good. And now it's a 11-point game for the Buffalo Bills. They are up 14-3. Would it stay that way? The answer is no, it would not. Quickly, the Buccaneers answer right back with Kyle Trask putting the ball into the end zone for a 1-yard touchdown. Johnson made the catch. Trez Johnson made the catch. 1-yard touchdown. Chase McLaughlin, extra point. Up and good. What was an 11-point lead became a 5-point lead and then a 4-point lead as the extra point by Chase McLaughlin was up and good. So now it's 14-10 Buffalo. Next play in the game. This would be the play that sends us to halftime. A 7-play drive for Buffalo leads to a field goal from Tyler Bass. This one from 37 yards. Is it up and good? Yes, it is. The Bills would go into the locker room leading by 7. All right, ladies and gents, that is the first half summary. Our second half summary is coming up momentarily. But before we go to the second break of the show, I promised you a look at the action from a very busy week number 3 in the preseason. All the games to this point have gone final, but here we go. We're not really going to share the screen here, but I am going to let you know what our final scores were. We will, however, share the screen when we get to Saturday, which was yesterday at the timing of our recording. Here we go. We begin with the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Carolina Panthers in the Thursday action. They pick up a 19-10 win over the Panthers to finish the preseason 2-1. The Carolina Panthers, meanwhile, finish the preseason defeated 0-3. They did not win any of their preseason games. Let's go to the G-Man Giants against the New England Patriots. The Giants did finish the preseason 3-0. They did not lose a single preseason game. New England finishes with a record of 2-1. They were defeated by the Giants 4-10. 4 games on the slate on Friday, just 2 on Thursday. Final scores from Thursday are Steelers 19-10 victors over the Panthers. Giants 42-10 victors over the Patriots. Friday, here we go. We kick it off with a showdown between the New York Jets and the Eagles. The Eagles were able to knock off the Jets with a 19-15 victory over the Jets. The Jets will finish the preseason 1-2. Eagles finishing the preseason 2-1. The Vikings will finish the preseason 1-2. They fell 23-13 to the Tennessee Titans, who finish their preseason at 1-2 of a record of 1-2. Again, they get victorious over the Minnesota Vikings 2013. The Dallas Cowboys take it to the Atlanta Falcons, who finish the preseason. The Cowboys go 1-2. They defeat the Falcons 13. And in the main event on Friday, it was the 2-0-1 finishers of the Chicago Bears against the 0-3 finishing Kansas City Chiefs. The Bears beat the Chiefs 29-27. Wow, a couple of close ones. 29-27, the Bears beating the Chiefs. 31-13. That wasn't close. Cowboys over the Falcons. 19-17. That's pretty close between the Jets and the Eagles. 23-13. Yeah, I guess that's close, but maybe not close enough. All right, ladies and gents, the fun part. Saturday, the last games of week number 3 in the preseason, including our game. Every game but our game, which finished 23-19, Buffalo over the Buccaneers. Those finals from Saturday coming up next. Plus, before we get to that, our second half Bills Buccaneers preview, I should say recap, and also still to come, Bills and Buccaneers player of the game, as what we like to call the game balls of the game, and the play of the game. That is coming up momentarily. And of course, coming up a little later, Jackson versus Allen. We'll preview that game coming up in 3 breaks time. We're at break number 2, so we're 2 breaks in, 2 breaks to go. Let's get to our second break when we come back. Second half highlights from the Bills' 23-19 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. NFL Saturday preseason recap and game balls of the game, also known as player of the game. That all is next. This is Bill's postgame on Sports for Beginners, and we will be back in just a moment. Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, 2 powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners. Bills Buccaneers. Welcome back to Bills postgame. Bills Buccaneers. Final game of the preseason. Final show of 2 preseason shows we've done here on Bills postgame on Sports for Beginners. Both of these shows are only available on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. I am your host, Scott McGregor, your Bills Mafia host. Glad you could join us for this show, dropping it on a Monday. We could drop it today on the Sunday, which is the day we are recording it. Alrighty, we want to get into the action. We want to talk about the action from Saturday. We do want to talk about that action, but there is a matter of business to get to before we can do that, or as some would say, before we could run. When we last left in our game breakdown, we were at half number 2 of this preseason game. Some might call it the climax half, and that's exactly what it's called. Well, depends on who you talk to. Anywho, let's get to it. At halftime, the Buffalo Bills and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were at a score of 17-10 in favor of the Buffalo Bills. Third quarter, first play in terms of scoring, Tyler Bassett. I was going to say Chris Bassett, but nope, Tyler Bass. He hit one from 37 yards earlier in the game to ultimately put Buffalo up 17-10. Can he hit one to put them up 20-10 from 37 yards? Yes, he can. The Bills' lead grows from 7 to 10. Back to a 10-point lead for Buffalo. It's 20-10 after an 11-play drive to open the third quarter, open the second half. Chase McLaughlin followed that up with a field goal of his very own, a 50-yard field goal, and just like that, a 10-point lead for Buffalo has been trimmed, not by a lot, however, because it was a field goal. Now the Bills leading by 7 once again. They led by 7 at the half, started the third quarter leading by 10. Now they're back ahead by only 7 points. Well, Tyler Bass called upon once again, third quarter, and he puts the Bills back up by 10 with a 39-yard field goal that is up and good. By the way, he did miss a field goal in his couple of attempts at kicking. Bass went 3 for 4 in kicking field goals. On this drive, though, however, which was 8-play drive, Tyler Bass kicked a ball from 39 yards into the end zone to put Buffalo up by 10 once again. It is 23-13, Buffalo. But guess what? It would not stay that way. Now, the Bills did win this game 23-19, but it would not stay that way when it was 23-13. Fourth quarter comes around and Connor B is at the helm. 1-yard gain for Green, touchdown. This was in the red zone. Green on the catch. Garrett Green on the catch makes it 19-23. Buffalo up 23-19. And they try to go up the middle with Owen Wright and to no avail. So the 2-point conversion fails for Tampa Bay. And there you have it, your final score. Bills 23, Buccaneers 19. Now, at that point, how much did the Bills win this game by? We know they lost by 38 last week. We know they lost 34-25 the week prior to last week. So they lost by 9 that week. Last week they lost by 38 points because they didn't have any points on the board against Chicago. So for their only win in the preseason, how many points did they win by? Well, they won by 4 points. So Tampa Bay couldn't complete the comeback, but they could have lost if the 2-point conversion had gone in, or rather succeeded. They could have lost 23-21, which would mean the Bills would win by a safety. So by any stretch of the imagination, this ball game was a good game by both sides. I thought it was a pretty good game. I really did. Sam Bouchel looked like he was going to be on point, but he wasn't necessarily on point too much of the time. Only 25 catches, I should say completions on 30 attempts, 278 yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked the 8 times. He was sacked twice and lost 8 yards as a result. He also did score a passing touchdown and averaged 9 per pass. On the Tampa Bay Buccaneers side, Kyle Trask and Chris B. Chris B went 12 of 19 completions for 107 yards, 1 touchdown, averaged 5.6 yards per pass. He was sacked once and also gave up a yard on 1 sack. Kyle Trask, on the other hand, sacked once, gave up 3 yards. So altogether, the 2 sacks the Buffalo Bills pick up on defense give the Buccaneers a total of 4 yards lost. Kyle Trask was 13 of 17 completion attempts, which gave him 93 yards, 5.5 yards average, 1 touchdown, no picks thrown. All in all, the offense for the Buccaneers, as far as passing, was 25 of 36 for 200 yards, averaging 5.2 yards per pass, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 2 sacks given up, and 4 yards lost as a result. All right, more stats coming up momentarily, but first, before we get to game balls of the game that we're going to get to when we get to the stats in just a moment, after we take another break, let's talk about the interesting Saturday we got besides our game. All right, so here we go. We'll start down in Baltimore, I should say in Washington, where the Ravens absolutely trounced the Commanders 3. Among those finals, we also have the Denver Broncos beating the New Orleans Saints 28-19. Tua Tagovailoa into the game for the Dolphins. He picks up a 14-6 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Records for Denver and New Orleans. New Orleans will finish the preseason 0-2-1. Denver finishes the preseason undefeated 3 and well, I guess you could call Miami's preseason undefeated. They finished the preseason. Jaguars finishing the preseason after the 14-6 loss. Packers get hammered 20-7. They finished the preseason 2-1. Seahawks finishing the preseason, I should say, 1-1-1 with a win, a loss, and I guess a tie. Elsewhere, not necessarily lighting it up with the Rams and the Browns. Final score there, 19-17 in favor of the Browns. The Browns finish off the preseason undefeated at 3-0. Rams finish off the preseason. Indianapolis taking it to the Bengals. Both teams will finish the preseason 1-2. Colts with the victory, a 41-14 smacker by the Colts. Speaking of getting smacked, the Detroit Lions will finish the preseason 1-3. They drop 26-7 to the Houston Texans, who finished the preseason 2-1. The LA Chargers also got beat, a bit close. The Niners beat the Chargers 30-23. I guess that's a bit close, but depends on who you ask. Chargers will finish the preseason 2-2. The Niners will finish the preseason 2-1. And last but certainly not least, besides Baltimore, Washington, Buffalo, Tampa Bay, Miami, Jacksonville, Denver, New Orleans, Colts, Bengals, Rams, Browns, Packers, Seahawks, Lions, Texans, and now Niners and Chargers. Arizona will pick up their second win of the preseason to finish the preseason 2-1. Las Vegas Raiders picking up a 0-2-1 record. They fall 20-10 to the Cardinals of Arizona. So just a quick recap of the scores here from my phone as we were talking about it. Denver beat the Saints 28-19. Miami beat the Jaguars 14-6. Baltimore crushes the Commanders 30-3. The Colts beat the Bengals. The Bills, the team we are talking about, beat the Buccaneers 23-19. Rams fell to the Browns 19-17. Packers beat the Seahawks 27. Texans beat the Lions 27. Cardinals beat the Raiders 20-10. And the Niners taking care of business against the Chargers. And in case you missed Friday and Thursday, in the Thursday slate of 2 games, the Giants beat the Patriots 42-10. Pittsburgh beat the Panthers of Carolina 19-10. Eagles knock off the Jets 19-17. Cowboys knocking off the Falcons 30-13. 31-13 the final there. Tennessee beating the Vikings 23-13. And the Chiefs fell 29-27 to the Chicago Bears. All right, time now for the game balls of the game, and we will get to them along with the play of the game right after this. And then following a 30-second timeout for a word from our good friends over at Broadcast Map, it's time to preview Allen versus Jackson and give you a look at the Week 1 NFL schedule, Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson preview, and Week 1 NFL preview. And in a break time, it's our breakdown of Bills versus Ravens Week 1 preview, as well as an entire NFL Week 1 preview. That is in a break time. But after this, more from game totals and game balls of the game, as well as a play of the game. Spoiler alert, you might have seen it on my Instagram story during the game yesterday. Find out what that play of the game is next. Stay with us.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m., and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time. Hello? How are you, my friend? Why? What's the matter? Why feeling bored and lonely? Look! Look at me! I am always happy. The only reason I can tell you, it's because I listen to CNT Radio. All the best shows you can think of. The Melting Pot, the Cosmopolitan Culture Club, and the Song Bank. There are also many more new shows to come. Please make sure to visit her website at http://cnt.wordpress.com/cnt-radio. Oh, now I can hear you more cheerful. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
It continues on Bills postgame. Final postgame show of the preseason. We are going to tee up Bills versus Ravens in a break coming up in just a few moments. But first, we gotta put a bow on Buccaneers versus Buffalo Bills. Final score of the ball game: Bills 23, Buccaneers 8-19. I was going to say 8, but no, it's 19. 23-19, the final score. Buffalo 20-19. All right, ladies and gents, want to also remind you that once we start previewing Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen, the Bills' Week 1 opponent on Sunday Night Football, 1 week from next Sunday, it will be also a preview of the NFL Week 1 schedule, including Thursday Night Football presented by Sunday Night Football broadcast, a Sao Paulo game on Friday night, a jam-packed Sunday, and then, of course, Monday Night Football. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun, if you will. I don't know what it is. I just love the Monday Night Football theme music. I really do. I didn't want to play the music because, as I had mentioned in previous shows, especially in our latest season episode, any rebroadcast or otherwise descriptions without the express written consent, in this case of the National Football League, is strictly prohibited. That also includes music used, photos, videos, of any kind. The Marlins and the Blue Jays, as I mentioned over the course of the show, are playing in the third and final game of their 3-game series. The Blue Jays will open up a 3-game series at home against the Minnesota Twins to open up a 6-game homestand that will feature the Minnesota Twins and the Milwaukee Brewers coming into Toronto. Milwaukee for a Friday to Sunday showdown, Minnesota for a Monday to Wednesday all-night game showdown. First pitches of all Minnesota games, 7:07 p.m. Eastern. We will send you off to Thomas for Blue Jays game recap following the conclusion of our show and, of course, the conclusion of the final game of the 3-game set between the Marlins and the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays trail the Marlins 5-3 right now in the top of the 9th inning. But one of the big reasons why the Blue Jays have runs on the board is a 3-run shot off the bat of Dalton Varsho. Seems like a little bit of a reverse script from game 2. Can the Blue Jays find a way to stun Miami? Well, they're down to their last out as we speak. So maybe not. Thomas will have all of it for you on Blue Jays game recap following us. All right, here we go. I won't share my screen for this, but here are our game totals besides the obvious for passing. Here we go. The Buffalo Bills finishing off this game with a time of possession of 35 minutes and 38 seconds. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a 24-minute and 22-second time of possession. The Bills had 25 first downs, Buccaneers with 18 first downs. Both teams threw the ball 14 times. The Buccaneers only rushed the ball 3 times. Bills did it 7 times. 4 penalties to Buffalo, 1 to Tampa Bay. The Bills were 3 of 9 on third down efficiency in this game. Tampa Bay 8 of 13 on third down. Buffalo went for it on fourth down once and converted. Tampa Bay did not go for it once on fourth down, so they don't have any percentage there. The Buffalo Bills total yardage, despite 63 plays, 6 yards per play averaged, they have 375 yards total on account of 278 passing yards. They lost 8 yards on 2 sacks they gave up. They had 105 rushing yards on 31 rushes. And in completion attempts, as I mentioned before, 25 of 30 for Sam Bushell. He had a pretty good game. The Bills averaged 3 points per rush. They were 2 for 5 in the red zone. Perfect in goal-to-go efficiency, 1 for 1. Tampa Bay, also perfect, 2 for 2 in goal-to-go efficiency. They were 2 for 3 in the red zone. 10 yards were penalized to the Bills in 2 penalties, 4 penalties with the Bucs for 31 yards. Only 1 turnover that went to the Buccaneers, and that was a fumble, the fumble that they lost. Buffalo did fumble the ball, but they did not lose that ball. No interceptions thrown in this game by either team. 2 touchdowns, 2 in the air for Tampa Bay, 1 on the ground and 1 in the air for Buffalo. Return yards for the Buffalo Bills, 161 on only 1 punt return. They had 3 yards. In 2 punt returns, 27 yards for Tampa Bay. 5 attempts in the kickoff for a return, 190 yards for Tampa Bay. 158 yards in 5 attempts on kickoff returns for Buffalo. No interceptions, no safeties, no yards regarding it. Tampa Bay's remaining stats, besides the turnover, the penalties, and how they did in the red zone, goal-to-go efficiency, third down, and fourth down, they averaged 2.6 yards per rush on 17 rushes, 45 yards, lost 4 yards in 2 sacks that they gave up, averaged 5.2 yards per pass. In total, between Kyle Trask and Chase, want to make sure I have that right. The Tampa Bay guy. Connor B. and Connor B. 200 passing yards, completions of 25 of 36 in completion attempts combined between quarterbacks. Connor B. with a couple of nice completions. They averaged 4.4 yards per play for 55 plays. Finished the game with a total yardage of 241 yards. They had passing plays, 3 rushing plays. They had 18 first downs. Buffalo had 25. And of course, Buffalo kind of had the ball longer than Tampa Bay, 35 minutes and 38 seconds, I should say. 24 minutes and 22 seconds for Tampa Bay. So was this at all a bad game by the Buccaneers? Well, debatable. Was this a great game by Buffalo? Again, debatable. But the fact of the matter is, Buffalo ends the preseason on a high note, and Tampa Bay also finishing the preseason on a high. They had won 2 games already before they lost in the final week of the preseason. If they had won that game, Buffalo would have been 0-3 in the preseason, and Tampa Bay would have been 3-0, undefeated. So with that, that leads me to the play of the game. And honestly, that unreal one-handed grab by Tyrell Shavers, I should say, was great. But I still like that play, specifically how they drew it up for Frank Gore Jr. to go up the middle and find a way into the end zone for the touchdown. Anytime you could score early, that's a good sign that you're starting off on the right foot. Tyler Bass, 3 for 4. Hey, it's preseason. Now we got to get ready for the real deal, Tyler. So good effort. I love the 3 field goal makes, I should say, by you in this game. I also love the fact that the 2 extra points you were able to make without hesitation. And I also like Sam Buechele, how he played. I like how he played. But my play of the game belongs to Frank Gore Jr. The game-opening touchdown after a 12-play drive put the Bills on the board early. All right, game balls of the game, and then I noticed right now it is now the end of the 3-game series between the Blue Jays and the Marlins. Blue Jays win the series 2 out of 3. Thomas will be with you to break that all down momentarily, right after us. But we have one more break before we send you to him. And before we get to that break, with the time that we have, it is now 4:30 p.m. on this Sunday afternoon. We are going to give you one player from each team a game ball of the game. Once we are through with that, we will take our final timeout, hear a word from Broadcast Map, and then it's time to preview Sunday Night Football, Ravens, Bills, Allen, Jackson, what's on tap for Bills postgame, and what happens in week 1 on Sports for Beginners. You're going to find out all of that in just a few minutes. Speaking of game balls of the game, as we send you into the 4th and final commercial break of the show, the first person to receive a game ball is going to go to the victorious Buffalo Bills. As I mentioned over the course of the opening of the show, it was a big dub that the Bills got the job done to finish the preseason on a high, and that is all I could ask for. After the 38-0 loss, I thought if we lose this game to Tampa Bay, we better be ready to go guns a-blazing come season time. And the good news is that's exactly what this team did. We found a way to win this ball game, got ahead early, and really tried to stay ahead, and that's exactly what we did. We never took our foot off the gas pedal. The defense was, some people would say, mediocre. And when I say some people, I'm referring to everybody, just to be clear. I honestly thought it was a mediocre defense most of the time. But after watching the highlights, there were a couple of things I liked, but we would be here all day if I wanted to bring that down. All right, here we go. Buffalo's game ball of the game. Today, the recipient is going to go to Frank Gore Jr., 10 carries, 32 yards, 3.2 yards average, 1 touchdown, 14 yards his longest run. And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, our player of the game, known as our game ball of the game recipient, that's going to go to quarterback the Tampa Bay Buccaneer offense. That's going to go to Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask is going to get my Tampa Bay Buccaneers game ball of the game. 13 completions on 17 attempts, 93 yards, 5.5 yards average, a touchdown. Yes, he was sacked, but he only lost 3 yards. And the other guy, Connor B, only sacked once and only lost a yard. All right, ladies and gents, it's time to get a word in from Broadcast Map, and it is also time to preview Bills versus Buccaneers. Nope. Bills versus Ravens, round 1, week 1 of the NFL season. We preview the week in week 1 of the NFL season and take a walk down memory lane previewing the Bills' week 1 opponent in Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. That preview, plus the NFL Sports for Beginners week 1 schedule, next. Back in 30 seconds after this from Broadcast Map. Stay with us.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Bills win it 23-19. The final score of the final preseason game of the season. My name is Scott. Welcome back in. Back with you for just a little bit longer, but now that the preseason is out of the way, I did the play of the game. I gave it to Frank Gore Jr. for that 1-yard touchdown run to give the Bills the lead early on. So with that being said, preseason is in the books. It is time to get down to the nitty-gritty, getting ready for the big Gator. What do I mean, the big Gator? I mean the games that matter. It's time to reveal the NFL Week 1 schedule. Here we go. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2025-2026 NFL schedule for week number 1. Here we go. It all kicks off Thursday, September the 4th at 8:20 p.m. Eastern, 7:20 p.m. Central, when the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles host the Dallas Cowboys in downtown Philadelphia. Then Friday, live from Sao Paulo, Brazil, at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, it's the Kansas City Chiefs, the runner-up Chiefs, taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. That's on Friday, September the 5th, 2025. To the big Sunday! And here is your 1 o'clock slate. The Steelers will visit the Jets to open up the season. Game time at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. Also around that time, the Miami Dolphins will visit the Indianapolis Colts. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will open the season on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. The Jacksonville Jaguars open up the season at home. They will host the Carolina Panthers. The New England Patriots also opening the season at home and in the early time slot on Sunday, September the 7th, 2025. They will host the Las Vegas Raiders. The Arizona Cardinals pay a visit to the New Orleans Saints, who will open up at home this season. And last but certainly not least, the Cleveland Dog Pound Browns will take on the Cincinnati Bengals at 1 p.m. Eastern. All these games I just mentioned are at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, September the 7th, 2025, 12 p.m. Central. At 4 p.m. slate, game times starting at 4:05. Those are the Seattle Seahawks taking on the San Francisco 49ers, and the Denver Broncos will host the Tennessee Titans. Both those games, Seahawks and Broncos hosting the Niners, and the Titans, Broncos host the Titans, Niners being hosted by the Seahawks. Game time 4:05 p.m. Eastern, 3:05 p.m. Central. Also in the 4 o'clock slate, the Lions visit the Packers at Lambeau Field. That's at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, 3:25 p.m. Central. The Houston Texans pay a visit to the Los Angeles Rams. 4:25 p.m. Eastern is the start, 3:25 p.m. Central. Then at 7:20 p.m. Central, 8:20 p.m. Eastern, it's our game. The Bills versus the Ravens, live on Sunday Night Football. That'll be a good one. Allen versus Jackson. That's going to be a good one. Then on Monday, September the 8th, 2025, the final game of week 1. This is going to be a tasty game. And you know what? I'm actually happy I'm going to be doing a show post-game after this Bills-Ravens game, also known in short form as M, but it's the Minnesota Vikings versus the Chicago Bears. 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central on Monday Night Football. Opening up Sunday Night Football, well, if you want to count Eagles-Cowboys, which is on Thursday, next on the list is Bills-Ravens. And then, of course, we move into week number 2. But we're going to focus mainly now on week number 1. So that is the week 1 schedule. I would expect Lamar and Josh to be battling it out, to be battling it out against one another. But in this league, you just never know who you're going to play. So you just never know what to expect. By the way, a couple of news and notes from the Buffalo side of things before we get out of here, as the Bills and Ravens prepare for a Sunday Night Football extravaganza, as I give you our Sports for Beginners week 1 schedule in terms of content coming up before we get out of here. As I mentioned before we get out of here, a couple of things to note on the Bills side of things. Bills releasing the following statement now on X, or as I call it, and I still call it Twitter, that they have released the following players, including D-back Zay Alexander, Z-Y Alexander, I should say, defensive end Nelson Caesar, defensive back Garnett Hollis Jr., offensive lineman Rush Reimer, tight end Matt Soko, running back Elijah Young, and also the Bills have waived wide receiver Grant Dubose. Grant Dubose has also been waived, and it's also a part of the injury part. So it's a quick roster update, which makes me believe they did not make the 3-man roster. I'm going to leave a link in the description for the post-game media availability from Coach Sean McDermott. I have yet to listen to that as well. And before we leave, one quick thing for the Penguins. One, I want to wish a very happy birthday to Parker Witherspoon. Happy birthday, Parker. Looking forward to seeing what you can do for the black and gold. We are just about done here, but first and foremost, I would like to officially let you know that week 1 of the NFL season is going to be exciting. We got a triple play coming your way in week 1. First up, Thomas breaks down the action from Indianapolis on Dolphins postgame. Week 1 game against the Indianapolis Colts. Then later, I'm back in the studio to get you pregame ready for Sunday Night Football. Then right after that, most likely it will be dropping on a Monday, but it is part of the triple play. We are recapping the primetime game between the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. Postgame, Bills, Ravens. Who's going to get the week 1 win? We find out a week from next Sunday. With that said, I'm out of here. Play shout our fight song, Bills Mafia. Bills win it in the preseason finale, 23-19, the final. Let's get ready for the Ravens. Enjoy the victory day, whenever you're tuning in, whether it's a Sunday, a Monday, whenever you're tuning into the show. Bills win the game on Saturday. That does it for us for the for the preseason. We will be back with you after the week 1 game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. But you can't get rid of us that easily. Join us after Dolphins postgame for the first edition, regular season edition, of Before They Kick Off. So just to recap, Dolphins postgame first, featuring the recap of the Colts-Dolphins game with Thomas McGregor in the studio. I will be back in the studio for Before They Kick Off following the conclusion of that show. Then later, it's Bills postgame. Who's going to get the first win? Will it be the Bills and Josh Allen, or will it be the Ravens and Lamar Jackson? I'm super excited. I cannot wait for the games to begin. Can they already get here? Play, shout, go Bills. That's it for us. My name is Scott, Bills Mafia. I will see you on the post-game show. If you tune in at the post-game show, I will see you after week 1. It's the regular season on deck, and it's a good one. Bills, Ravens, next time on Bills postgame. Until then, go Bills, and I will see you all real soon. It's time for Blue Jays game recap. Blue Jays and Marlins, streaming on Sports for Beginners and also on the ice and behind the benches. Peace. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginners podcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.